The sound that woke me that night wasn't thunder, wasn't coyotes either, though I've heard plenty. No, it was that bright metal twang you get when a fence wire snaps under real tension. The kind of sound that slices the dark open, makes your gut clench, and in that same breath, I caught the smell of trampled grass and the restless shuffle of 50 cattle shifting into shadows. Like the world itself decided to get up early. And you know what? I knew right then, this wasn't just some accident. No, sir, someone had cut my line, and there was only one soul in Willow Stubbornor, petty enough to pull a stunt like that. So there I was, boots half-laced, flashlight in my teeth, the cool pre-dawn breeze sliding across the screen door like a warning, my mind running a mile ahead of my feet. Because, let's be honest, when your pasture butts right up against suburbia, you don't just think about the day, you think about the next 10 problems before breakfast. You learn a lot. Living beside folks who treat a lawn like a holy altar. You learn your neighbors' moods by the color of their porch lights and exactly which arguments are worth the blisters. This one, oh, this was already personal. Sycamore Point sits right across my fence, looking like a glossy real estate brochure come to life. HOA rules thicker than a phone book, lawns manicured by folks with more money than patience, hedges trimmed by laser level. You get the idea. And presiding over all that, like some self-appointed queen, is Brittany Halford, the HOA president, woman who treats property, values like scripture, and herself like both preacher and sheriff. Now, my land's never been in their HOA. Never will be. Deed goes back 3 families and a dairy operation, but Brittany's the type who thinks boundaries are just lines for her to erase. And she's made it pretty clear my cattle and rustic aesthetic offend her HOA sensibilities. 2 weeks before the wire snapped, she'd stood on my gravel drive, arms folded in a windbreaker with her initials on the sleeve, telling me my livestock containment didn't meet her standards. I told her my cows were more contained than her last landscaping budget, and she smiled at me the way people do when they're already thinking up a workaround. So, when I found the break in my fence, I didn't need Sherlock Holmes, clean cut, wire tails tied off neat, no sag from age, and a pair of orange-handled bolt cutters lying right there in the grass, gleaming like a confession. But the real show was behind me. 50 head of cattle realizing that Brittany's emerald green yard and imported roses weren't just for looking at. No, ma'am. They'd stumbled into an all-you-can-eat HOA buffet. Calves bounding through her flower beds, a big steer claiming her limestone walkway like it was the Senate floor, one troublemaker wading into the decorative fountain, heads down in the landscaping like it was grown just for them. Brittany herself, standing on the porch in a silk robe and foam hair rollers, bolt cutters still in her hand, hadn't even thought through step 2. She made a sound like someone realizing the magic tricks happening to them, not by them, and then her eyes snapped to me. You cut the wrong wire, Brittany. I told her, not raising my voice, because you don't shout at a stampede, not of cows, not of people. You just let gravity and truth do their work. She shrieked, voice cracking. Cole, you get them out of here this instant. Waving her arms like she could chase away a thunderstorm, which the cows took as a suggestion to chew slower. They were in, I told her, leaning on my fence post, till someone let them out. And I nodded at those bolt cutters. She tried to kick into the grass like a kid hiding a crayon. Then she pulled the authority card. Your animals are trespassing. You'll pay for every blade of grass. I laughed. Couldn't help it. There's a kind of irony that just tastes too good. Neighbors were waking up by now, porch lights popping, cameras peeking, and my favorite character, old Mr. Dugan in his veteran cap, calling out, "Guess the grass really is greener, Cole," which sent a ripple of laughter through Sycamore Point that curled the edges of Brittany's composure. Then came the sheriff's cruiser, blue and red making. It all looked like small-town theater. Deputy Ray crouched, bagged the bolt cutters, gave me a look that said, "Let her talk. This one writes itself." By mid-morning, cows were back in. Wire spliced for now, and I found a crisp white envelope taped to my mailbox. Sycamore Point letterhead, my name spelled wrong, the whole 9 yards. Disciplinary hearing, $5,000. Assessment for landscaping, which is a fancy way of saying, pay us for the buffet. I laughed out loud. My acreage sits 100 yards outside their rules, and they know it. But Brittany loves her Little stage, so I rebuilt my fence with heavier wire, dug deeper posts, and hung bright yellow, private property. Do not cut fence signs facing her yard. More for her conscience than the law. At first, I wasn't even going to go to their hearing, but then I remembered, control freaks hate calm defiance. So I showed up, clean flannel and boots, sat in a plastic chair while Brittany pounded the gavel like Judge Judy and read a list of charges, community this, community that. When she finally paused, I raised my hand. One thing, tiny technicality. I'm not in your HOA. The room shifted. The runner at the end of the table cleared his throat. Technically, his parcel's outside our charter. Brittany's smile went tight and cold, but she kept digging, accused me of endangerment. I pointed out she'd cut the fence. Maybe Deputy Ray should testify. You could hear the AIC kick on. She adjourned, said she'd bring legal counsel. I said, sure, I'll bring a few neighbors who enjoyed last night's show. Laughter broke out. That's when I knew the audience wasn't hers anymore. That evening, I posted in the neighborhood Facebook group, polite as you please. Cows are secure. Fence was compromised. Law enforcement has the report. Thanks to the neighbors who helped. I put my phone down and let the community do its thing. In an hour, the comments were flying. Videos of cows and rose bushes, Brittany yelling in her robe, those bolt cutters. Someone made a meme, my bull sitting in her walkway, free lawn service. By sunset, Brittany's profile was gone. 2 mornings later, a contractor delivered gleaming white vinyl panels to her curb. By lunch, she had a fence tall enough to hide behind, and not 5 hours later, one of my heifers leaned against it. And the whole thing popped and sighed like bubble wrap. That evening, animal control came out. Brittany filed a cruelty complaint. The officer touched the vinyl, shook her head. Ma'am, this is ornamental, not livestock barrier. Word spread. Someone started a parody account for the fence. Day 6, morale low, cows victorious. Even I had to laugh. The next HOA meeting, Brittany called me a hazard to the community. I said, they were contained till you cut the line. Mrs. Voss, lived there since before Sycamore Point was poured, raised her hand. Honey, the only danger I saw was you yelling at cows in a nightgown. The laughter shook the walls. Brittany doubled down, brought in a steel gate, keypad, the works. Folks called it Fortress Brittany. Then a summer storm hit. The gate froze mid-cycle, crashed down on her Lexus. Tow crew had to winch it off while kids filmed in their pajamas. The lawsuit came next, emotional distress. Property damage, public ridicule. She asked for 50 grand. My lawyer, Nate, walked in with one document, Deputy Ray's report, and the bolt cutters themselves. Mr. Dugan told the court about the nightgown opera. The tow truck guy described the gate. The judge tossed her case, awarded me damages. Neighbors shook my hand like I'd won the state fair. But you know what? People like Brittany don't quit. A week later, I found blue pellets, poison bait, scattered just inside my fence. Animal control bagged it. I hid cameras, set up decoy salt licks with harmless dye, rigged a low voltage. Shot for good measure. 3 nights later, I caught her on camera, hands stained neon pink. Posted the video, fence bandit, pink-handed. By noon, she was the talk of the town. She hired a private security outfit, drones, spotlights, the works. That lasted until a dad at a birthday party knocked a drone out of the sky with a football. The HOA finally called a meeting without her. A little peace returned. Until the dig. Brittany hired a bulldozer, tried to cut a trench on my line. The rain-soaked ground gave way. The machine went nose first through her own vinyl fence. Videos. All over local news. Just when you thought it was over, she hired a helicopter livestock transport outfit to round up my cattle. Trailers lined her curb. Men with ropes chased cows while the chopper flattened her roses, tried to airlift a heifer and snagged the steel gate instead, yanked it right out of the ground, dropped it, and for the second time, her Lexus wore a steel grin. Kids cheered, neighbors filmed. Even the cows seemed to enjoy the show. That afternoon, the HOA officially removed Brittany as president, issued an apology to the whole subdivision. Next morning, she staged a press conference, claimed to be the victim of reckless agrarians. Halfway through her speech, a heifer wandered into frame and let out a long moo that sent the camera crew into stitches. By nightfall, Brittany wasn't just local news, she was a national punchline. Life settled back. I set new posts, strung hot wire, sipped coffee on the porch. Folks dropped by with stories. The deputy called out, "You keeping it calm, Cole?" And I realized winning wasn't about the internet laughing or the judge's gavel. It was about staying steady, knowing your rights, documenting everything, and letting folks like Brittany build their own cages, even if they look like steel gates and drones. Sometimes I stand at that fence, listen to the herd breathe, watch the sun hit the grass, and remember, HOAs can keep a neighborhood neat, but they can't keep a soul honest. In the end, community always sides with the truth it can see and touch. But you tell me, where's the line for you? Between order and overreach, between protecting a neighborhood and policing a way of life? Drop your thoughts in the comments. What would justice look like if it was your lawn, your fence, your 50 cows? And if you've tangled with your own HOA nightmare, share it. Because out here, stories travel faster than cows through an open gate, and being a neighbor still means something.